In the last 2 decades, Italy has shifted from being a key economic leader to facing a significant downturn. Known for a strong manufacturing sector and a dynamic workforce, it's now struggling with business closures and a loss of skilled labor. Even with youth unemployment at a 20-year low, Italy is seeing a major brain drain as skilled workers leave each year. This talent loss has cost about 14 billion euros from 2008 to 2016, and the trend is expected to persist. Now here the question arises: what are the reasons behind Italy's declining economy? Let's find out. Welcome to Money-Minded World. Since 1999, the financial situation for the average person in Italy has been tough. Their income has gone down by about 10% when compared to what most people make in other countries in the Eurozone. This is a big change for people living in Italy, as they're not doing as well as many of their neighbors in Europe. Looking over at Slovenia, just next door, we see a very different story. Their people have been doing better over the last 20 years. After factoring in the rise in the cost of living, the average wage in Slovenia has actually increased by 15%. This shows that Slovenia has been making good progress economically, and people are generally earning more now than they were 2 decades ago. Among Europe's large economies, Italy stands out with a GDP of $2.1 trillion, making it far from a minor player in the global market. It holds the position of the world's 8th largest economy and has consistently been in the top 10 for the past 4 years. However, despite its substantial economic size, Italy is facing challenges that are contributing to a downward trend. As other emerging economies around the world grow, forecasts suggest that Italy could drop to 14th place in global rankings by 2030. Italy's economic landscape has sometimes been different. In the past, it was seen as a dynamic and rapidly growing economy, especially in the period from 1950 to 1980, a time often referred to as the Italian economic miracle. This era of growth was remarkable, particularly considering the devastation Italy faced at the end of World War II. By 1945, many of Italy's major cities lay in ruins, heavily bombed and affected by various military occupations. However, post-war, Italy's strategic location between Northern Europe and the Mediterranean and near the Iron Curtain transformed it into a valuable ally for the United States and the broader free world. During this period from 1947 to 1951, the United States supported Italy with over $1.2 billion under the Marshall Plan. This funding significantly boosted Italy's manufacturing sector. Additionally, the Korean War and establishing the European Common Market increased demand for Italian products and eased trade restrictions. These factors and a substantial labor force drove strong economic growth in Italy for 2 decades following the war. However, this period of prosperity came to a halt in the 1970s, due to various economic and political challenges ending Italy's phase of rapid growth. While the Italian economy continued to grow in the 1980s and 1990s, a crucial element of sustainable long-term growth started to falter: productivity. Total factor productivity, TFP, which had been a significant contributor to Italy's growth during the post-war miracle, began to stagnate around 1970. Over the next 50 years, leading up to 2019, TFP fell by 13.7%, negatively impacting Italy's current growth. In the 80s and 90s, Italy tried to stimulate growth through policies like deficit spending and currency devaluation. However, these measures provided only short-term relief and did not improve TFP. As a result, while the economy grew during these decades, the growth was not sustainable, and the lack of improvement in productivity has continued to be a concern for Italy's economic future. Liking the video so far? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more insightful content. One of the key reasons for Italy's economic challenges, especially its decline in workforce productivity, is linked to regulatory obstacles. These obstacles include excessive regulations that limit competition, efficiency, and worker mobility between firms, thus increasing the productivity gap. Italy's service sector mainly has seen negative productivity growth since the sovereign debt crisis, impacting overall productivity growth. Additionally, Italy's corporate sector shows low dynamism, with fewer new firms being created compared to the OECD average. This is compounded by the fact that firms in Italy tend to stay small and grow slowly, further affecting overall productivity. Addressing these regulatory barriers and fostering a more dynamic corporate environment could significantly enhance Italy's productivity. Some other factors affecting Italy's productivity are complex labor rules and slow legal processes. This inefficient environment makes it challenging to develop new businesses, resulting in lower investment and growth rates. Public sector inefficiency is particularly detrimental in Italy, where firms rely heavily on government services. Research from 2015 highlighted that Italian companies, especially those in sectors highly dependent on government services, perform better in regions with more efficient public services. It was found that a firm in a sector with high government dependency could see a 133% increase in output per worker if located in a province with above-average public efficiency. This indicates the potential gains Italy needs to catch up on due to inefficiency. The inefficiency in Italy also extends to the judicial system, where the average time to resolve legal disputes is considerably higher than the OECD average. This creates an unfavorable environment for new business creation. In 2021, the Italian government approved significant changes to the country's legal system to address its slow civil justice system. The changes included setting strict time limits for appeals, encouraging mediation, and increasing courtroom support staff. However, the reform proved to be unsuccessful. Then there is another reason. Geographically, Italy shows a distinct divide in productivity between the north and the central and southern regions. Northern Italy, home to the industrial triangle of Milan, Genoa, and Turin, is known for its modern industries, including naval production, machinery, and automobiles. In comparison, the central and southern regions have a less developed, heavily subsidized agricultural economy, marked by high unemployment and underdevelopment. Firms in the north are significantly more productive than those in the south, mainly due to lower infrastructure investment, lower human capital investment, and more significant public sector inefficiency in the south. As of recent data, the per capita GDP of southern Italy is only about 58% of that of the center north. This gap, however, is somewhat offset by the fact that the cost of living in the south is approximately 10 to 15% lower than in the north. Italy's economic divide between the industrial north and the agrarian central and southern regions creates several challenges. The north's higher productivity in sectors like machinery contrasts sharply with the south's underdeveloped, subsidized agriculture and high unemployment. This disparity leads to regional income inequalities and social issues. Italy's demographic structure also presents challenges. The population is aging, with a concentration in the older generations and fewer younger people being born to replace them. As of 2023, Italy's aging population highlights its demographic challenges. The median age in Italy is 47.7 years, indicating a significant shift towards an older demographic. The country's total fertility rate is 1.3 births per woman, below the replacement level fertility of 2.1. As Italy's population grows older, the government faces increasing pressure to reallocate its budget. This shift isn't only a matter of demographics, it has profound implications for the nation's fiscal policy. The government is redirecting a more significant portion of its budget towards vital services like social welfare, healthcare, and pensions to support this older generation. These are not minor expenditures. They already represent a substantial part of Italy's GDP and are projected to grow further. This presents a considerable challenge for Italy's economy, simultaneously contending with slow growth and an aging workforce, akin to navigating a complex obstacle course. Additionally, Italy is currently facing two interconnected problems. Firstly, many young and talented Italians are moving abroad, a situation often called brain drain. This means Italy is losing a lot of its skilled workers. Italy has experienced a significant brain drain, with around 800,000 citizens, particularly young and educated individuals, leaving the country between 2009 and the early 2020s. This outflow of talent has been estimated to cost Italy about 14 billion euros annually. Secondly, the country has a big problem with public debt, meaning it owes much money. These issues are happening simultaneously and are both severe challenges for Italy. With a debt-to-GDP ratio of 144%, one of the highest globally, Italy faces the arduous task of allocating a significant portion of its budget to service this debt. This financial pressure limits the government's ability to invest in areas that could stimulate economic growth, such as infrastructure development. This high level of debt is particularly concerning, given Italy's prolonged period of slow economic growth. It raises questions about the country's ability to generate sufficient income to manage and reduce this debt. The debt levels are so impactful that Italy might run a primary surplus without them, meaning it would have more income than expenses. However, the reality of high interest payments makes this unfeasible. In response to these challenges, on September 25, 2022, Italy elected Giorgia Meloni of the right-wing Brothers of Italy party, established in 2012. Despite initial international skepticism, Meloni's government has implemented several economic reforms. These reforms primarily focus on narrowing the gap between government spending and revenue. Since 2020, this gap has been decreasing, with projections indicating further alignment by 2028. A major aspect of Meloni's strategy is reducing the size of the welfare state. This involved phasing out a basic income support scheme for low-income households, intending to shift welfare assistance towards encouraging work. These reforms, however, have proven unpopular, as they result in reduced welfare payments for many citizens. Meloni's administration has increased financial support for families. This includes a 50% increase in baby bonus checks for the first year after a child's birth, and a similar increase for 3 years for families with more than 3 children. Additionally, the government has introduced incentives for extended maternity leave, and for individuals who continue working longer, contributing to their pensions. While Meloni's efforts aim to address some of Italy's deep-rooted economic issues, the complexity and scale of these problems suggest that significant and sustained reforms are needed. Italy's economic difficulties are likely to persist for the foreseeable future. So that is it for today. What do you think will be the impact of Giorgia Meloni's economic reforms? Let us know in the comments. Also, if you liked this video, subscribe to our channel for more. We'll be back soon.